I'm gonna put it bluntly, everyone was completely wrong about Chappie, and nothing is gonna change my mind. Because it's actually an enjoyable, and I'd argue genuinely good film. Is it Neil Blomkamp's best work? No. That's a video for another time. However, it's far and away underrated and definitely way overhated. Like, okay, I could understand giving this film, like, I don't know, a 6 out of 10, 65%. I mean, that's fair, right? But 32%? Are you kidding me? What were they smoking? In all serious, I don't have an issue with the scores, but I do have an issue with some of the critiques that both audiences and critics have made against it. Some of the arguments against Chappie, make sense, while others are just, well, babble. Anyways, regardless, this brings me to the first major critique, which is that Chappie is just an amalgamation of other movies, which is most notably seen in the main plot of the film. Just to briefly recap, there's a weapon manufacturing corporation called Tetraval who produce these state-of-the-art police robots named Scouts, as a solution to the city's sky-high crime rate. These robots were created by Dion, who is in direct competition with Vince. No, not that one, this one. The inventor of the Moose, a giant ass armed to the teeth killing machine. Behind the scenes, Dion is also creating the world's first artificial intelligence, which can think, feel, and express emotion. Through some shenanigans, this AI gets captured and raised by a group of gangbangers, which, as you can imagine, stirs up a crap storm. So yeah, I definitely see where people are coming from here. There are some obvious parallels to movies like Short Circuit, iRobot, and RoboCop especially. Both protagonists originate from the police force, they both are created to deal with a high crime rate, and they both end up doing battle against a humongous murder bot in the climax of the movie. However, the majority of these similarities, whether it be RoboCop or otherwise, are just surface level observations with no real substance. Going back to the RoboCop comparison, sure, both protagonists fill a homogenous role in terms of the main plot, but the actual characters themselves and what they actually represent are completely different. Murphy was an upstanding police officer who was placed into this husk of a body without his knowledge or consent. On the other hand, Chappie is a burgeoning AI with childlike wonder, who gets their view of the world informed by criminals. Essentially the idea of innocence being corrupted, which is portrayed pretty damn well in this film, might I add. On top of all that, the perspectives that RoboCop and Chappie offer regarding the prolonging of human consciousness and mortality are the exact opposite. Like, absolutely contrary, antithetical, contradictory. Yin-yang, I don't know. I'm running out of ways to say opposite, but you get the point. Like I said, Murphy is placed into a mostly robot body without his past personality and knowledge of his former life being locked away by OCP, turning him into this unemotional cyborg. The movie is very clearly demonstrating that the morally just thing to do would have been to let Murphy pass on, because even in future entries, Murphy is still looking back and reminiscing on his previous life in mournful sorrow, whilst questioning his own existence. In RoboCop, preserving human consciousness and the idea of immortality is very dystopian and unnerving, to say the least. Chappie, on the other hand, approaches this idea from a different angle. You see, in the climax of the film, Dion and Chappie are close to death, so they both decide to transfer their consciousness into deactivated scout units through the use of the helmet designed to control the Moose. Though I'm not exactly sure how this works for Chappie, but whatever. We'll roll with it. When Dion wakes up in a new metal body, it's painted in a positive light. Chappie presents wonder and renewed opportunity, in contrast to RoboCop's morbid dystopian bastardization of the human body. The potential for immortality is certainly attractive, though ethically questionable. I mean, all we have to do is look up a clip of this scene on YouTube and the comments are filled with people giving their own opinion on whether transferring your consciousness to prevent death is an extraordinary revelation or a dystopian nightmare. Despite what people's opinions may be, it's inarguable that this movie presents the idea positively, what with the music, and the way Chappie delivers the revelation of immortality to Dion. This is further emphasised by the scene just after this, before the credits start rolling, where Chappie is creating a new body for one of the gangsters, Yolandi, who died during the Battle of the Moose. Yolandi's death was definitely the most tragic scene in the movie, and now she has a second chance to regain the life that was stolen from her. This is definitely a big departure from the typical portrayal of these kinds of themes in movies and media as a whole. This segues into an aspect of this movie that I really like and appreciate. Chappie has its own distinct identity, and it's not just the unique perspective on this classical ethical debate. The distinction also extends to the visual flair and set design. On one hand, you've got the bland, overwhelming whiteness of the Tetraval Corporation, which is, what you'd expect from a mega-rich corporation. Then you have the gangsters' main base of operation, which is just brimming with insane amounts of colour, breathing life into the rundown surrounding environment. Actually, now that I think about it, when Chappie first arrives, he clashes so much with the environment. But later on, when he starts adopting their lingo and appearance and personality, he blends in perfectly. I mean, that's a really nice touch, further hammering home the theme of Chappie being morphed by his environment. And it's really awesome seeing that change commence over the course of the film. Overall, it looks like an environment straight out of a music video, which is really fitting as the gangsters themselves, most notably Yolandi and Ninja, are played by Yolandi and Ninja of Die Antwoord fame. I think that's how you pronounce it. Who we'll touch on in a bit. Oh, my bad, it's Die Antwoord. I just looked it up. Yeah, they just use their performer names. I mean, you can't really get more on the nose than that. Their music is all over this film, to the point where some say that it might as well be a Die Antwoord music video. And while I wouldn't go that far, it definitely does get close to it at times. To be honest, the music is nothing I would personally listen to, but it does sync up well with certain scenes, and in general, it complements the sort of gangbanger criminal underworld aesthetic this movie has going on. All of this just goes to show how unique and memorable Chappie is. I honestly don't understand how people can just claim that, oh, it's just a rip-off of other movies. Chappie's an amalgamation of better films. I mean, don't get me wrong, Chappie definitely takes ideas and influence from other sci-fi movies, but at the end of the day, what movie doesn't? Hell, what piece of media doesn't? This is how art is created, by taking ideas, themes, subtext, styles, taking all that and making it your own. Why do you think there's no such thing as an original story or an original piece of art? Because everything is influenced by something. And that's perfectly fine. This is why the rip-off / amalgamation claim doesn't really make any sense to me. Another complaint you'll hear parroted on review sites and articles is that the pacing is incredibly poor. Okay, to be fair, there are notable pacing issues in the opening of the movie, I'll grant them that, at least if you compare it to Niels' other movie, District 9. To put it into perspective, District 9 spends about half an hour setting up the world and location where the movie takes place. Chappie does that in less than 10 minutes. Like, we get a brief info dump, then we're introduced to Dion, and from there we follow his story, and so on and so forth. That may sound bad at first, but in reality this quick setup actually works for this movie. In District 9, a huge focus is placed on the world's reaction to the crazy events going on, and the ongoing state of affairs. That's not really the case with Chappie. Chappie is all about, well, Chappie, and his growth, development, reaction to his surroundings and the people that inform his worldview. I'm okay with a quick little overview of what's going on in the world because in turn we get to spend more time with Chappie and the other supporting characters. Aside from that, there weren't really any other noticeably jarring pacing problems in the rest of the running time. Finally, the last major criticism is the middling acting and dislike for the main characters, specifically Die Antwoord. Speaking broadly, I'm gonna have to hard disagree on this point. Across the board, the acting is pretty good in my opinion. Dev Patel and Hugh Jackman deliver a very convincing rivalry between Dion and Vince respectively. Not their best roles or anything, but still. Chappie as a protagonist is just so enjoyable to watch. I mean, the guy is so wholesome, innocent, and surprisingly expressive for a robot. Plus, the animators did an amazing job making him move and, oddly enough, feel human. It's no easy task in making a robot brim with emotion, and this movie absolutely nailed it. With this performance, Copley once again demonstrates the wide range he has when it comes to the art of acting. I mean, just compare his performance in this to Blomkamp's other movies and the difference is night and day. Even after all that being said, acting is hardly the highlight of Niels' films. It's the visual effects, immersion and overall subtext that really come together to make them so damn memorable. And I think Die Antwoord's performance is the best example of this. For starters, they weren't hired because they were decent actors. Neil Blomkamp was a fan of their music and stated in an interview that it didn't really matter whether they were good or not. The magnetic weirdness of them being on screen would overshadow everything else. And you know what? He's 100% right. Whenever Ninja and Yolandi are on screen, they have a very dominating presence, both visually and performance-wise. The acting is not amazing, but I can't imagine anyone else playing their roles. A lot of people despise Ninja, especially in this movie, which, yeah, I agree, he's an asshole, but that's the point. I don't know much about Ninja the person, but from what I've seen online, he's a very controversial individual, especially in South Africa. In the movie, he's a grade A douchebag from the start, mistreating Chappie and constantly making threats towards Dion. That's where Yolandi comes in, who ends up being a balance between Ninja and Dion. wanting to keep Chappie in the company of herself and the other gangsters, but at the same time wanting to give him a good upbringing. She's definitely one of the more likeable characters in the movie, with Chappie gravitating towards her as a sort of motherly figure. It's also through her that we come to understand Ninja a lot more, even sympathise with him, as whenever they're together we get to see a more sensitive and personal side to him that is locked away 90% of the time by this performative, thuggish persona. So I must be missing something, right? The reviews seem to indicate that this film utterly blows, but as this video has shown, I just don't see it. Sure, Chappie has a few hiccups, but all of that is trumped by the awesome visual and practical effects, perfectly fitting music, and unique subtext that differs from the norm. But bottom line, don't listen to the critics and audiences. Listen to me, because I'm the authority on all things film, and everything I say is correct. But in all seriousness, Blomkamp is a definitive 3 out of 3 director in my eyes, and perhaps maybe a 4 out of 4 with the release of Gran Turismo coming up. Who knows? Personally, I'm not sold on it, but I'm curious to see what Neil does with it, so yeah. Anyway, that's all I have to say on Chappie. Like if you liked, dislike if you disliked, subscribe for more quality content, and I'll see you guys next time.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried. Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.